Men of Reddit, what's the creepiest thing a woman has ever said to you? I just wanted to see if you'd stay now. The reason this was fucking crazy is because preceding that I got a text from her saying she maybe missed a period. I said something like, oh okay, so what if you're pregnant? She volunteered an abortion. Cool, good shit. I don't have to worry about raising a kid at 16. Keep in mind we weren't even sure yet that she was pregnant. So then suddenly she texts me saying maybe she changed her mind and she would want to keep it if she were pregnant. So I, reasonably, asked what changed. She says she just might want to keep the kid if she's pregnant, and I keep sort of driving after it. Okay, but what's different between now and an hour or two ago when you brought up an abortion? She accuses me of pressuring her, calls me an asshole, and stops responding to my texts. A day or two later she tells me she wasn't ever even pregnant in the first place and see the quote above. That's why she said she went through all that shit, and I guess her not knowing the kind of person I am made that okay for her to do. God, I wish it had ended there. I bartended at a small dive bar years ago. It was late one night, and I had a lone female guest. She was probably middle-aged, polite and short, while ordering her drink. I thought nothing strange, or got no red flags, so I continued my closing duty, sweeping around the tables in particular, not behind the bar. I'm focused on cleaning and getting out of there, and I turn around to dump dustpan, and she's standing right behind me staring me dead in the eye. Will you dance with me? She asks in a slow, nervous manner. For the record, there is no music playing, and we're the only two living creatures in the building. I tell politely that I'm closing and cannot right now, and quickly put distance and walk behind the bar. In the 5 seconds I have to walk through the kitchen, this guest has walked back to her stool and begun hysterically crying at the top of her lungs. She asks me if I think she's ugly, fat, unattractive, a whore, and several more derogatory things which I deny and deflect. She screams and tells me she hates me and runs out of the bar. I wring the beer she drank half of up as a waste and lock the door. I continued to work there for 7 more years and never saw this guest again. Mine is so harmless in comparison to a lot of these, but was stoned and hooking up with this girl. We are foreplaying, and she's sitting cowgirl kissing my neck until I'm digging it. Suddenly she's like licking and slurping my neck and chest. She sits up, moves her face an inch from mine to stare into my eyes and says, "Where did you get your skin? It's delicious." I was so high I could only reply, "My parents." She told me she would rather kill me and then herself than see me with someone else. She held up a banana and asked if my penis was the same size. In the middle of a dinner rush, as loud as can be, in front of about 5 customers and everyone on shift that night. And this was after she groped my brother's ass. Somehow she didn't get fired for this shit, and I still resent my former boss for not being more attentive. As a child, 10yo, my then stepmom requested some specific candy bar from my trick-or-treating haul. When I refused, she casually said, "I'll rape you for it." I had only a vague idea what the word meant, but it sounded like bad news. Bonus, same individual performed a tactile inspection of my downstairs when I tried on a new bathing suit to ensure that my package was alright. A few years ago I started hanging out with this girl who was around my friend group at the time and came to trivia nights with us occasionally. Things were going well at first, but then I started noticing some odd signs. She never slept. She would do bizarre things like start her shower, then go start cooking food, then sit down and begin tending her plants, as if she kept forgetting what task she was doing. She put a sign out on her lawn with her cell phone number on it wanting to connect with strangers. It got weirder as it went on. I mentioned to her once that I liked thunderstorms, and she became convinced that I could cause thunderstorms. At first I thought she was joking, but it started to weird me out. Then one night, when I was sleeping over, I noticed that she was just sitting in bed watching me. She put her hand on my heart and whispered that she could hear the beautiful fishes in my blood. That very morning, her father burst into her apartment yelling about her appointment with the psychiatrist that she kept avoiding. She told me that her parents and the doctors were trying to convince her that she had bipolar disorder and wanted to shut her brain off. Long story short, Her friends and family convinced her to go. She bravely took on her mental illness and got help before the manic episode got out of control, and now we are very close friends to this day. Slightly off topic, but this experience comes to mind reading this. This weekend at Velt Music Festival in Toronto, I was actually aggressively approached. A girl had grabbed my arm as my friend and I were walking by. As I tried to pull away, she looked me dead in the eye and said nothing. I said, "Sorry, I'm in a hurry to the bathroom. Can't talk." She then proceeded to touch my stomach and tried to get a handful of my package. Throughout all this, she said nothing. Scared the shit out of me. A complete and total stranger walked over to me and said, "I need you to rearrange my guts with your cock." She pointed at the men's bathroom and then walked over and into it while I left. This woman had 20 years at least on everyone in that place, and the best way for me to describe how she looked is to say half-crushed beer can. A woman I matched with on Tinder told me that she likes to kill animals and then asked to meet me in the middle of the woods. I figured that might be a red flag, so unmatched and never went back to Tinder. I was 14, she was 16. Just started talking due to our mutual friends were dating. After a week she drops, "I got a bun in the oven and you can be the father." Hung up the phone and never spoke to her again. Edit. I was obviously not the father after only talking to the chick for a week. I worked at a fast food place years ago. My girlfriend came in for a milkshake and was waiting at the end of the counter with one of our regulars. Doris, the regular, was near 90 years old and had invited me home to have pot roast at her house multiple times. I was being a pain and put about a foot of whipped cream over the top of the lid of my GF's milkshake and brought it to her. Doris looked at her, then looked at me deadpan and said, "I wish you cream me like that." Doris never ordered desserts. Edit. Added a much needed space. I hate to tell you this, but Elle had to have an abortion, and it was yours. We never did more than kiss. I mean, I'm a pretty solid kisser, but not that good. I had a lady friend who was adamant she was pregnant with my child. I pulled her dad aside and explained what she had told me, expecting a lashing and how I'm gonna pay for this kid. He calmly goes, "She does this with everyone who wants to leave her. Just walk away and have a good life. 100% wish he was my dad. Cool ass dude with a shit daughter." A girl once told me that she was jealous of her friend because she got raped and got a cute baby out of it. I don't think I ever felt less comfortable. Had an ex who routinely threatened to cut it off. Any chance she got, she would have her hands on it, and sometimes would say things like, "If you ever cheat on me, I'll cut your dick off, and if I could cut it off and keep it in a jar, I wouldn't need you anymore." I would wake up with her holding onto it while looking at me. Crazy AF, but yeah. When I was younger, I worked in a bar popular with 18 to 20-year-olds. One night as a group of girls was leaving, I made eye contact with one of them. That was enough. She came stumbling up to the bar and said, "I have to show you the background on my phone." She put her phone on the bar and the background was a picture of me. "I took it about 3 weeks ago. I'm totally obsessed. Your photo is the last thing I see before I go to sleep and the first thing I see when I wake up." Would it be weird if my son called you back, quote, "Dad"? I was 18. She was 25. We were coworkers at a Walmart photo lab, and she said that to me on the phone while I was walking to her place to hook up for the first time. I was young and horny and simply said, no, he'd just be wrong. Back in college, I was at a study group, and I found myself talking to this girl. Just talking about class and eventually just talking about random other stuff like life at school and favorite places to eat nearby. Then after a moment of silence, she tells me that she wants to see me fight off a group of guys trying to attack her, and she'd hold me while I was beaten up and bleeding on the floor. I mean, just randomly dropping that on someone when a minute ago we were talking about best places to get cheap food is a bit much. Edit. For the dozens of people asking, I just kinda brushed it off and awkwardly tried to turn the conversation to something not about me getting violently beat up. Also, I'd maybe talked to her a handful of times and always in class, and this was the first out of classroom conversation I'd had with her. Was on a nearly empty plane, sitting in the last row in a window seat. No one else in the row. I eventually fell asleep. Woke up with a tatted up goth looking chick sitting next to me. Eyes boring a hole through my head. Just straight up staring and blinkingly at me. I look at her and I'm like hi. She stares for like 5 more long seconds and then exhales. "Sorry, you looked like an angel sleeping with the sun on your face," she said breathlessly. We chatted for maybe another 30 seconds or so. She apologized for staring like that a couple more times. Then she went back to her seat. Shit was surreal though. The end. Thanks for watching.